2026 is a scary time to upgrade or build a PC. Companies have increased prices of generally all PC parts, but mostly with GPUs, storage, and most importantly, DDR5 consumer RAM. I definitely understand if you don't have a computer and really need a top-of-the-line PC for workflow, but if you don't, do you really need to upgrade this year? With that question in mind, if you're on the DDR4 platform, maybe just wait out with what you have and wait for the market to recover and then down the road upgrade then. But what if you have no PC and just want to enjoy some lightweight gaming and maybe stretch that to some AAA title? Maybe you are on a razor thin budget as well, then what's available to you? Well, yes, you could get a used Steam Deck, a used ROG Ally, or a used gaming laptop maybe. I wanted to go even cheaper, so much so that I found this old office PC on the side of the road next to a pile of garbage. Let's build a gaming PC out of this in the cheapest way possible and see what we can do later on at different price points budget-wise to see if we can improve the experience. This old Dell Optiplex 910 small form factor is rocking a 3rd gen i5 3470 CPU. 16 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM with a few proprietary connectors, and after throwing in an SSD drive I had lying around, it fired up luckily. Two other things I'm lucky about with this PC is that it is an older Dell platform that still has the 24-pin motherboard power connector, unlike some of their newer generations, and that it randomly had 16 gigabytes of RAM installed. This can't do much gaming as is, but let's see if we can add some parts to it. I just want to preface all these prices are in CAD. In USD, this would be a lot cheaper, but this is what it costs for me. Let's try adding a new power supply, GPU, and more storage just for some more games. This is an EVGA 650 watt power supply that a friend gave me a while ago, but these are worth around $50 on the used market. You could go even cheaper than this just to get a power supply that will work though. I picked up this NVIDIA GTX 970 for $30 on Marketplace because it was just so cheap. I'm using a 120 gigabyte SSD for the boot drive, which I kinda had to hack Windows 11 onto. This goes for around $20. Then I added a 1 terabyte hard drive just to hold some of the bigger titles. These go for around $15 to $20, but I just had one lying around actually. So in terms of cost, the parts are worth about $120 and my cost is around $30. I'm using a PCI extension cable just so I can plug this all in without taking the old power supply out, but we don't actually need it. I actually like these Frankenstein builds. It's kind of fun to just piece together random parts and just to see what it can do. It kind of looks like a mess at the end, but it works. But I think I'll keep this build around as a budget machine, so I'm gonna transplant it into an ITX case I have lying around. This is the Cooler Master NR200P. It's a pretty popular ITX case, and I used it not long ago for my main build. I ended up painting it green around that time as well. They're worth about $90, but generally you can use any ATX case to make it as simple as possible and probably get something next to free as well. This was definitely a little difficult to fit all inside, but I managed to get it all installed with some modifications for the power supply. This system can easily do some light retro emulation, playing classics from the older Nintendo systems, PlayStation 1, and probably some PlayStation 2. I tried out a few GameCube games and I had mixed results. Mario Golf Toadstool Tour works, but had some pretty bad slowdown at times. Auto Modelista worked great actually. This was a lot of fun. I tried out some Switch emulation just because I was curious. Super Mario Bros. Wonder worked great as long as you had the shaders cached, but there was a lot of hitching. That's kind of the main issue with Switch emulation on this 3rd gen Intel chip. It can't really keep up to smooth out the shaders loading that hitch up the gameplay. I'm sure the RAM speed has something to do with it as well. I did try Tears of the Kingdom for fun, and it's the same story. The game does run, but it's really rough, and not worth it overall. I think some lightweight titles you can mess around with for Switch emulation, but this is pretty low-powered hardware. Moving over to PC games, basically any lightweight games are going to run, and run well to be honest. This alone makes it worth it for me to get through your Steam backlog of indie games or any older titles. I decided to step it up with the Cyberpunk benchmark, and I couldn't believe that it got anywhere close to 60 FPS. But that's what the average was. This was on 1080p low with FSR3 set to performance. What also surprised me was loading up Arc Raiders just to see what would happen. I couldn't believe it. It actually ran close to a solid 60 FPS with upscaling to 1080p and settings on low again. Of course, it looks kind of awful and soft, but the point of the showcase is to see if it's fun, and it still is. Sometimes we get lost in the benchmarks and stats and forget to just immerse ourselves in the game. In its current state, you could have a lot of fun with a PC like this. But I wanted to look for a bit more GPU power on the used marketplace, and I ended up finding a really good deal on a GTX 1080. This is also a nice version of the 1080 because it has an AIO water cooler built right into it to keep it really cool. I managed to snag this for $100. I know that's a pretty good deal, I was lucky to get it, but it just goes to show that if you're on the ball in the used market, you can really get some great deals. So now the build is at about $190 in parts and $100 in my cost. Let's install it and see how much of a performance jump we get. With the GTX 1080, GameCube emulation was much more stable. I didn't see any of the slowdown that I was getting in Mario Golf. The Cyberpunk benchmark did add the average FPS to 65, but I think with this GPU, I could tinker more with the settings to make the game look a lot better than the 970. I did change a few things in arc raters though. Now I can play at 1440p, 60 FPS on low with FSR 3, and this is a much more enjoyable experience than with the 970. It's not as distracting anymore and detailed enough to get more immersed in the gameplay. I'm pretty happy with this little project and will keep it around as a lightweight gaming emulation machine, or maybe as a media PC. But this does go to show that you can get pretty far with cheap used hardware. If you focus on the gameplay rather than the resolution or the frame rate, you can definitely have a good time. I think down the road I'll upgrade the CPU, motherboard, and RAM when I find something for a good deal. Now my overall recommendation would be to use what you have for now. Or if you need something, look to the used market and try to find an older, fully built gaming PC. You can get some real good value picking up an old system and maybe just upgrading that in the short term. If you have the itch to upgrade, maybe look at if you could use a display upgrade that can match your current system in terms of performance. This is my first build on the channel and I plan to do a lot more projects in the future. But if you have any interest in maybe another cheaper alternative for gaming, like a gaming handheld, or maybe see what the phone in your pocket might be capable of, check out my past videos on the Odin 3 or the Samsung S24 Ultra.